What is going on, Fantasy Alarm Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Matt Selz, Ryan Hallam. It's time for another family meetup, the Family Times podcast, here on FantasyAlarm.com. And guys, before we exchange pleasantries, I just got to say right off the bat, we talked about the pitch clock, and we said, wait until this happens in season. Wait till it ends a game. And we didn't even have to wait till the season. Literally a day later, Braves Red Sox ends because of the pitch clock violation. Selz, is this going to screw with the entire baseball format here?
I was listening to a replay of watching a replay of the Diamondbacks Padres game, which ended 18-something in favor of the Padres. And the announcers for San Diego were talking about how, can we have this called in the ninth inning and whatever? And I'm like, oh, great. It's the Super Bowl frickin' hold debate all over again. It's like, when is too late to call a penalty? It's a penalty. Like, it'll be ironed out. It'll be fine. I don't think it'll come into play in, late in the season because everybody's going to have a full year of it to get used to it. This is the first time a lot of major leaguers are experiencing pitch clocks. If they're rookies coming up, they've had it in the minor leagues for a couple of years. But if guys who are in the majors who are all vets, like Manny Machado got called for the first pitch clock violation in spring training, very first at bat of spring training, wasn't looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds to go and got called for a strike. I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to really mess with anything more than a ghost runner at second base in the 10th inning does. But I do have to say, I love the speed of the game that it's producing. Like, the Nats beat the Astros 3-2 in a spring training game on, Sunday? On Sunday. 2 hours and 7 minutes. I'm fine with that. That's fantastic. Like, you get runs, you get offense. It's quick. There was a 6-5 game, took 2 hours and 29 minutes. Perfectly fine. I don't need a 3.5 hour 6-5 game. I just don't.
I think I'm with Matt. I'm like, we have a month, a little bit more than a month. Figure it out. I mean, you're professionals. It's not. I don't think it's that much to ask. It'll be a little bit of a adjustment. But if you really lose a game because you couldn't get your ass in the box in time, you deserve it. I mean, the clock is right there. You can see it. You got, if you can't stop with your batting gloves or wiggle your bat or whatever the hell you're doing fast enough that I mean, it's not like they're just bringing it on them. Game one, that we have all spring training to get used to it. So get used to it. Everyone.
Not to mention, if there's a guy on base, you have an extra 5 seconds to get ready.
Yeah. Things change at work all the time. We have things that change at work all the time. You just get, you have to adjust to it. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, in the NBA years ago, they messed with the basketball a little bit. They changed it. Different grip on the ball. Can you imagine that? Someone accustomed to feels for probably over a decade, certain feels on the ball, and now they have to recalibrate just like that.
They did that last year for the pitchers with no sticky stuff.
Yeah, right.
Right.
The pitchers had to get used to it, and they got used to it.
By the way, Selz, did I just see that you had a shirt that literally just says, Trey Turner is fast?
Yes, I got it from a company called Obvious Shirts. They're based in Chicago. A lot of their stuff is Cubs related, but they do have just general baseball shirts and baseball sayings, and they are remarkably comfortable shirts. So yes, this one just says Trey Turner is fast. It's red because when I got it, he was actually a National. Now the red works again because he's with the Phillies, though it's a different shade of red. But yes, they are. They had, by the way, I don't know if they still do, but they had. Do you remember the Snickers commercial or the peanut butter? No, it was Sprinkles. The peanut butter, like the they made the rap about the ice cream.
I don't remember that. Oh, the
commercial.
The Snickers ice cream bar?
No, it was not Snickers. It says Sprinkles, but it's the there's the mom in the kitchen that's making ice cream, and then
lots of chocolate. Let's the wrap off. Whoop! There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't believe Ryan. I just got that, by the way.
They had a shirt with the lyrics to that made, and Obvious Shirts sold it. So they sell some pretty fun shirts.
What's the most you're willing to pay for him in an auction? Trey Turner, not the shirt. Trey Turner.
Depends on budget. Are we talking standard $260 budget?
Yes.
He should be the most expensive guy that comes off the board.
Because it'll be interesting because
he should be. Like I don't know that there's a debate about that.
Is that how you feel in snake drafts as well? No debate.
I think he should be the clear number one pick. Colby and I both said it, that there's like, if you look at NFBC right now, there's like 9 different guys that have gone number one. I think it's Trey Turner, and I don't even think it's really all that shocking. I think he's going to have a monster season.
So, do you think there's any chance he runs a little less after signing a big contract and not necessarily on a team that, and they haven't had a guy of his ilk, but do you think, not necessarily a team that runs a ton now that the Phillies have invested all this money and he's got to be getting close to 30? Is there any chance maybe you see a little down? Obviously not if you think he's consensus number one.
No, I don't, for a couple of reasons. One, he's shown the only injury he's had in the last few years was him trying to bunt, and he broke his pinky because he forgot the Little League rules on how to bunt and where to place your hands. I don't think that's going to be a problem. 2, the pickoff rule means that on the third go, he's just going to go, and there's technically a shorter baseline by 6 inches because the bases are 3 inches bigger in each direction. And Kevin Long is the Phillies hitting coach. He's the one that fixed Trey Turner. Remember the huge year that Trey Turner had for the Nationals in like 2019? It's because Kevin Long was there. He likes Kevin Long so much that he used Kevin Long's hitting program over the offseason when he was a Dodger and Kevin Long was coaching for the Phillies. Like, Kevin Long has called him his dude, referring to Trey Turner. So I think the park plays in his favor. He's back to the NL East, which he's familiar with from obviously coming up with the Nats. He's with a team with a few former teammates of his, like Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper when he gets healthy, whatnot. I think the steals are going to be fine. I think we're going to see quite a bit of power, and the average is going to be there. So, and Philly scores a lot of runs. So I think he's going to have a monster season.
I have not been in the position yet to draft number one. I feel like I've gone back and forth between Acuna, between Turner. It's really actually been those two. I'm trying to make myself love Julio Rodriguez a little bit more. And
I wouldn't do it at 1.
We've seen him go at 1.
We have, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take him 1.
Well, here's because I just took him 2 in TGFBI. So the batting average is not that much lower than Turner. Probably more home runs, almost as many stolen bases. 22 years old, still could be getting better. Outside of the ballpark factor, I don't think any of that is incorrect. I think he's right there.
No, I'm with you. My only concern is there regression from a monster rookie season.
Could be. Or he could still be improving.
He could. But I think that the ceiling and floor, like the ceiling is higher for Turner and the floor is the same. Whereas I'm not sure you can say that about Julio. Like, I love Julio. I think he's a first-round pick. You could clearly take him in the top 5. I'm just not sold on him going number 1 overall. The only other guy I think you can make an argument for number 1 overall, and it depends on how you get to use him, is Shohei Ohtani. If you're in a daily moves league, you can make the argument that Shohei Ohtani should be the number 1 pick.
I love him, and I had him last year, and I had him in, I think it was labor, where you could use him however you wanted. But you almost always use him as a hitter, like, because he's only going to pitch once a week. So it's not like you ever get that 2-start pitching week out of him. And he's such a dynamic hitter that I feel like you almost don't get the benefit of him going two ways because you can only use one or the other. So it's, and I also do love him, and I also think I also think he's a first round pick. I
My
almost
cat
just
is going nuts. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I almost feel like it's almost ruined by the fact that you have to choose how to use him.
I mean, what about some of these other guys? I mean, you're right. It's a lot of players we've seen on the NFBC boards going number one overall. What about someone like an Aaron Judge? Got his bag. Are you out on him, Selz?
I'm not out on him. I'm just not taking him I'm not paying the number one overall pick for a guy coming off his absolute ceiling of a season.
Yep.
There is no way he outperforms last year. There's no way. I'm sorry. The last time a Yankee contended for the Triple Crown was freaking Mickey Mantle. Like, there's no way. He got paid. Congratulations. We don't have him getting used to a new team. He's staying in New York. But, like, even and Colby Conway and I debated this on the MLB pod, and I was like, well, let's put it this way. If he goes back to his remarkable rookie season, right? 51 homers or 50 homers, whatever it was, and like 15 steals and let's say a 290 average. That's first round. Is it number one overall? I don't know. Like, I just don't see, you're not getting upside. You're just hoping that he comes close to what he did last year, and that's a bad way to draft at number one.
I completely agree, 100%.
Do you think maybe people think, because whenever I listen to different analysts talk about fantasy baseball heading into the draft season, a lot of what I'm hearing is at the shortstop position, pretty hefty with depth. Do you think maybe people use that as justification to not take Trey Turner first overall?
Well, I will say, because I just made this decision an hour ago, that was the reason I went with Rodriguez over Turner, was the shortstop. I mean, there's 6-7 more guys that I feel pretty good about. And in a lot of these leagues, if you're in a 3 outfield league, then I think that doesn't come into play. But if you're in a 5 outfield league, which a lot of, the industry drafts and the high stakes drafts all are, then I think the position comes a little more into play.
Okay, here if I'm in a 5 outfield league, which I am in a few different ones, I'm still taking Kyle Tucker over Aaron Judge.
Oh, we're talking Turner and Julio Rodriguez.
I mean, I would take, in a 5 outfield league, I'd still go. If the choice is between Turner and Julio Rodriguez, I'm still going with Trey Turner.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the decision. I think it's a very wise and probably safer decision, to be honest.
I think the elite shortstops are still better than a bunch of the elite outfielders. I think that's how I'm viewing it. Because the other thing is, you could still draft 2 shortstops because a lot of them have middle infield, short, and second, right? Mm-hmm. So, you can still draft 2 shortstops, and in that case, you're comparing 2 shortstops against 3 outfielders or 2 shortstops against 5 outfielders. It's a little bit different of a discussion. But if we're talking straight up outfielders, I would take Kyle Tucker as the first outfielder off the board.
We just saw Kyle Tucker go 2nd overall in the labor mixed draft, one of our industry drafts that took place too. So it's very interesting. Definitely opened a lot of eyes too regarding.
I mean, the guy without trying last year went 30-25, and his batting average was sapped because of the shift. He was way better against no shift than he was against the shift, and guess what happens? There's no shift this year. And there's more chances to steal. Guy could go 30-30 and hit at least 280.
So with these auctions coming up, with our industry auctions coming up, labor, tout wars, and everything like that, Ryan Hallam's actually going to be participating in said auctions right here. For football, I feel like I've got the auction strategy down pat when it comes to how to work the room a little bit, what positions to not mess around with. But with baseball, it's a bit different. More positions to fill. So when it comes to the aggressiveness, it's kind of hard to get people to spend more, I feel like, when it comes to baseball, because the positions are so widespread. And for those that are in bidding wars, especially for top players that are going for way over what their projected budget for the player is, they'll just think that, oh, well, I'll just go and excel at another position and spend big there, maybe even save some value. I mean, how does auction strategy differ in fantasy baseball than fantasy football?
I mean, I don't think it's a lot. I mean, in fantasy baseball, to me, it's just the lower dollar, like the dollar days or the $2 guys. It just lasts longer. Like, I still feel like the top kind of, it's a little less, obviously, because football, what do you have, like 15, 16 players to fill, and baseball is like 29. You definitely have to be a little more mindful of bidding wars. You have to be a little more mindful. I know there's some people who like come up with a budget for each position. Like, well, I'm using this much a catcher and this much. And I've never been that kind of person. Like snake drafts, auction drafts, like I'm the worst. Like I don't have strategies. I go in and just like see how things break out. And that's kind of like last year, both of them, I didn't expect to come out and spend as much as I did in the beginning, but I just kept thinking I saw value. So I just kept spending until I couldn't anymore. And I did well in tout. I didn't do very well in labor. But probably, and you kind of helped me break that mold, Fancy, of don't be shy off the bat. There's some people who are not going to go for like the first 3 or 4 guys or 5 guys
because they warm up, dude. You show up warmed up already.
Guess what? The first 4 or 5 guys are probably the first 4 or 5 top guys in the league. So, there's always a person or two who's like, oh, I'll save my money for the middle. And that's great too. And you can always outbid a few people, but then you're spending $13 on a mid-level guy or, $20 because you can. But to me, there's I don't want to say stars and scrubs is always, a kind of a buzzword strategy, but I think it's just being smart. So yeah, I think you're, bullying people with going to the next level, like from 18 to 20, because psychologically it's different. You spending your money early. I still always, and I'm sure no one that I'm auctioning with is listening. I don't nominate people I want for maybe the first 10 or 12 turns around. I want to make other people spend money so they have less when it's somebody I want. So you'll almost never see me nominate someone I want until I'm.
But then you switch it up after that. You kind of start sneaking in players that you want, because for those that feel, and there are some that are very great at multitasking that have done this for a long time, that will start to track who's putting players out and then bidding on those players versus who's just throwing players out there to get money off the board. And you can get found out pretty quickly. Now, that's why in football, it's so much more critical, and it's easier to track in football, fewer positions and everything. But with baseball, where it's harder to track, you don't want to be solely focused on what your adversary is doing in your leagues. But at the same time, you do want to have the awareness of who exactly is being bought because they want versus price, and who's actually putting players out there that wants those players, so you can get them to spend up a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say that baseball auctions are similar enough to football, where if you're good at a football auction, you should be able to use similar tactics in a baseball auction. However, that being said, there are more positions you have to care about in baseball. There just are. Like in football, you're spending big on wide receiver and running back, and the rest of it, you can piecemeal it together with a bunch of dollar-a-day dudes. Baseball, that's not going to work, right? Every position, you're going to have a dude that can at least produce a decent amount to compete, right? You can't really punt a position like I mean, you can, I guess, in single catcher leagues, you can probably get away with punting catcher. In 2 catcher leagues, you're going to need at least one solid catcher. But there's also a lot more stats and ways to score in fantasy baseball than you have to really be concerned with in fantasy football. Because, roto, you got to care about 5 categories for hitters, 5 for pitchers for standard leagues. Then there's 6x6 rotos. I've seen people playing in 10x10 rotos. That's insane. At some point, stats start to cancel each other out. And you're like, I saw one league where they went 10 by 10 roto and they went stolen bases and net stolen bases. I'm like, well, you're double counting things. Like, that's pretty stupid. But I will say, in an effort to get people to spend up, and again, top guys in baseball are not going to go for the same price tag the top guys in football because the rosters are shallower in football. You have the same budget, generally speaking, between football and baseball auctions. But if you want to get guys to spend up, nominate a guy from a shallow position. So this year, catcher is reasonably shallow, although I would argue it's deeper than it has been the last several years. First base is remarkably shallow. Second base is like an absolute boondoggle if you get past the top like 4 dudes. Like, it is so shallow, it's ridiculous.
So let me ask you this, Selz. Let me stop you right there. So let's just say that I'm giving the first nomination in a fantasy baseball auction. Let's just say 2 catcher league. Should I throw a Real Muto out there?
Yeah, get money off the board.
Right. I mean, that's
like, it's going to take more research for you to do that strategy because you're going to have to be comfortable with the quote-unquote lower tier guys. But at some point past the top, I would say 4 or 5 catchers, they're all roughly the same, right? So if you're not getting one of the top 4 or 5 catchers, you're getting guys that are roughly the same as everybody else there. So to clear money off the board, because a lot of people go in panicked about, ooh, I got to get myself a catcher. And if you throw Real Muto out there, they're like, ooh, hey, thanks for that. And everybody's got fresh amounts of money. He'll go for a little bit more than he probably should.
Or if it's the opening bid, or if it's the first player that's put on the board, then maybe people are like, I see what you're doing. I'm going to wait. And then you get them at a little bit of a cheaper value.
One of 2 things is going to happen. You're either going to clear more money off the board than you thought you were, or you're going to get the top catcher for a value that you didn't think you were going to get. So there's basically no losing unless you get caught trying to price check people and value regulate, and then you wind up spending more money than you should on a guy you didn't necessarily want in the first place.
If you are an auction bully, you have to be ready to take a few on the chin. You have to be ready to get someone at a stupid price because you're trying to be that person. You're trying to play this kind of offense when you can just play the pass line. If this were a game of craps, you want to make big moves, though, then you're going to get caught a few times. It's going to happen. The bidding, even if you're going back and forth, that can stop quickly. You know what I do? If I'm in a very big back and forth with someone in an auction and it's going at a very quick pace and I still want the player, slow down the pace. Going back and forth. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, wait 7 seconds. Because all of a sudden, that other person starts to think a little bit. You want to get them thinking. You want to get them off that momentum drive. Well, should I really be going that way? I could talk auction strategy and psychology all day long.
Here's the other thing. There's the person in my league I'm talking about, if she listens to this, great. If not, I'm pretty sure she knows she has a tell. Okay. She will immediately bid you up if it's a player that she wants. If it's one she's so about, she sits there and waits for it to get called the 2 right before it gets gavelled. She'll jump it, whatever. But if it's a player she really wants, she upbids as soon as you get the words out of your face that you want to upbid it. So it's like, okay, how far can I push you? And if it's a player that's on her favorite team, budget's out the window, man. You can make her pay way too much for, like, her favorite team's the Orioles, right? So anytime an Oriole comes up, she'll bid a lot for a guy that's probably okay, right? There's some good dudes on the Orioles.
That's pretty much describing the Orioles for the most part over the last.
There's some impressive guys that are coming up on the Orioles. They're going to be a threat here for about the next 5
Gibbs isn't coming, all right?
They're not coming yet, but like Austin Hayes, right? He's solid, not great. He's going to hit about 250 with about 20 homers, okay? You can get her to go a few bucks above what he should go for simply because she enjoys watching the Orioles, and she likes having.
I'd rather spend $8 on crab fries at Camden Yards than on most of this Orioles team. I feel like at this point here, and those
fair, but I'm just saying that's part of the learn if you're in the same league every year, learn the tells because everybody has a tell. And I have tells. I haven't figured out what they are. If I did, I would change them. But there are times I get bid up on a guy and whatnot. So just learn the tells, and then you can trap people into spending more money than they should on guys that are okay.
And separate your Oreos like Teddy KGB.
Yes. He did me and his money. Love rounders. Let's go to the family table. Man, rounders. Oh, by the way, you know what? I'm bringing to the family table. I'm going to bring some to the family table. So what sport, Matt Selz covers a lot of sports here, but what's Matt Selz mainly known for, Ryan, in the fantasy sports industry?
NASCAR.
Right. Guess what movie Matt Selz hasn't seen?
Talladega Nights.
Like, dude, what? What's
the matter with you, dude?
Like, come on. I know you're very
busy. Days of Thunder.
Okay, great. I don't care about that. That's not Talladega Nights. Shake and bake. It's so much fun. It's goofy. It's a solid movie, man. I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. That's like me not seeing Space Jam. Come on, man. Come on. That's like me not seeing White Men Can't Jump. You know, it's like that's the thing, man. When you said that to me on the playbook on Better Sports Network, I almost had to excuse myself because I was just so shocked and my brain just went to mush after that. So here's what I'm bringing to the table. Matt Selz, you need to go see Talladega Nights, okay? And you need to see it soon. After you're swimming in all your money that you win with your DFS NASCAR playbooks on fantasyalarm.com podcast Saturday, by the way. That comes out, you and Dan Malin. Then at the little nightcap, get yourself one of those crafty beers that you like so much, and then watch Talladega Nights. It's an hour, probably 35, well worth it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Ryan?
I mean, 100%. I back that up. I've seen that several times. Anything with Will Ferrell is usually a go for me, but yeah, if this is your specialty, Matt, you really got to go see it.
I've seen basically every baseball movie ever made.
That doesn't excuse you from this one. You have homework before the next episode. You should see Talladega Nights.
It's not happening, Ryan. We might as well give him the failing grade now. What are you bringing to the table?
Oh, I'm sitting in New York bracing for a snowstorm coming later today and tomorrow. And as it's almost March 1st, I'm putting out in the world that this is going to be the last one. It's been a pretty easy winter. I can't complain too much. We're probably gonna get half a foot or more, but this is them putting out the warm weather juju today. That this is the end. It's almost March, for God's sakes. Let's end this seasonal depression and all that crap, and let's get some sunshine.
Yeah, no snow. Snow stinks. It's awful. Then you got to go shovel it and everything. Your dog won't make in the snow because it's too cold for the bottom right there. So no snow here. Selz, what are you bringing to the table?
What I'm bringing to the table is just, again, how much I love the pitch clock and the different rules in baseball, man. Like, I'm rejuvenated about this. Like, it's phenomenal to sit there. Like, last night I was working on my glorious custom-made draft spreadsheet for a draft that I'm not even attending. I'm sending my dad as my proxy for my home league because I can't make the draft. And for those of you that are laughing, my dad's won this league 3 times and commissioned it for 20 years. So he knows what he's doing. It's basically having an ace in the hole with him as my proxy. But I was sitting there watching spring training games and doing this, and the flow of the game was so great, I didn't even mind the commercial breaks happening. Like, it was fantastic. They played, like, I have not seen a spring training game go past 2 hours and 45 minutes. You can't say that about basically any regular season game last year, except for the ones that were no hitters or were 1-0 or had 97 strikeouts or whatnot. In fact, had the Nats Astros game not gone to extras, it would have been over in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
The last time I think I heard that was when Mark Burley was pitching, and he decided to do a speed run on a 9-inning game. So congrats to baseball now. If only they could fix that damn blackout rule so that more fans could actually see the games. That would be great. But I implore you, if you gave up on baseball because it was too slow or whatever, just watch in the new pitch clock era. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. Sitting there watching, now I can get like 3 baseball games in a night and not have to worry about it because they're going so dang fast.
He's Matt Selz. Give him a follow on Twitter at the Selzman. Ryan Hallam. Give him a follow at Fighting Chance. I'm at Fensty Sports. Get your free fantasy baseball draft guide if you haven't gotten it yet. FantasyAlarm.com/MLB draft guide. And as we always say, family that sticks together wins together.